Today I'm gonna tell you the story of one of the most terrifying subway tragedies in metro history worldwide, which happened due to one mentally ill passenger, incompetence of train operators, and shortcomings of fire suppression system. Two trains, one of which was full of passengers, were completely burned down, taking lives of 192 people. South Korea, Daegu City, typical Tuesday morning, February 18, 2003. Two trains, number 1079 and 1080, are running on the city's metro line during the morning rush hour, carrying people on their way to work, school, and wherever else. Though their numbers go one after another, 79 and 80, these trains were actually on different tracks. 079 on one track and 080 on the other one. Around 9:30 a.m., a seemingly usual passenger boarded train 1079 at Sakhain station. His name is Kim Di-han, a semi-paralyzed ex-taxi driver. In 2001, Kim suffered a stroke, and his mental health has significantly deteriorated. He couldn't work anymore. He was really upset about quality of medical care and treatment he was receiving, and recently he's been experiencing suicidal thoughts. Passengers hop on a train operator closes doors, and 1079 leaves Sakhain station. Train goes along the section of metro line, and Kim stands. He's holding a handrail with one hand, and with the other hand, he tightly presses against himself two green cartons with unknown liquid. Kim has slightly pale face and smiles. None of passengers can even imagine what Kim is gonna do, since he looks just ordinary. Train 1079 is on halfway to the next station called Jungangno, and Kim takes out a lighter and attempts to spark it several times. Passengers notice what he's doing, and several men try to stop him. They took Kim down on the floor, and all the liquid spills around the floor. It splashes on seats and other elements of plastic interior. Regardless of all attempts to stop Kim, he, being on the floor, sparks one more time. And this time, all spilled liquid catches fire. Meanwhile, the train 1079 enters Jungangno station. The train operator follows the usual procedure, stopping the train at Jungangno station and opening the doors. At very that moment, the unstable passenger Kim and other passengers from the same carriage run out the train, escaping flames and smoke. Kim goes up the escalator and disappears into the streets of the Daegu city. The train operator Choi Yong, seeing through the rear view mirror that one of the carriages is filled with heavy smoke and even flames, immediately informs passengers to evacuate the train. He takes then the fire extinguisher, leaves the cabin, and tries to put out the fire by himself. The first mistake which will make this situation a tragedy: Choi Yong doesn't report the critical situation to the subway dispatcher. He neither informs them about the fire on the train, nor that he is evacuating the passengers, or that he leaves the control cabin of the train. Again, there is two tracks for trains on Jungangno station, and while no one knows that there is a fire on the station, other train can enter the station or even stop there. This mistake has significant impact on what happens next. The subway dispatcher is unaware of the situation, and only after a while they notice that train 1079 is still at Jungangno station. And the dispatcher, concerned about that, tries to contact the operator Choi Yong, asking, "What is happening? Why aren't you leaving the station?" Choi Yong obviously doesn't respond to the dispatcher, since he's out of the train's cabin and trying to deal with the fire by himself. Dispatcher checks cameras of the station and sees that the station is overfilled with thick smoke, but the dispatcher doesn't fully understand how terrific the situation is. As interior of these old type of trains in South Korea was made of highly flammable and toxic plastic materials, fire was spreading rapidly to the next carriages of the train 1079, producing toxic black smoke. At that point, the dispatcher calls operator of a train 080, which is approaching the same Jungangno station on the second track, which is right next to the track where 1079 is burning. However, instead of instructing the operator to pass through the station without stopping for safety of passengers, or to stop before the station to protect them, the dispatcher gives the following instruction. There is a heavy smoke at Jungangno station. Be especially careful when entering the station and brake carefully when you approach. So the operator of train 1080, Choi Sen, receives the order and keeps moving toward the Jungangno station. After a while, train 1080 is entering Jungangno station and Choi Sen sees the station completely filled with smoke and flames erupting from the 1079 train, right on the next track. Might Choi Sen, operator of 1080, doesn't fully understand the severity of the situation. Everything is happening too quickly. Maybe Choi Sen is in doubt after the dispatcher's instructions, which only warned to be careful and didn't explicitly order him to pass through the station. But then Choi Sen makes next terrible mistake. Let's imagine that you are the operator of train 1080 and you're stopping at a station where is a train on fire right next to your train, and the entire station is covered in thick smoke. What would you try to do to save your passengers? Some of you might say that you would open the train doors and tell all the passengers to immediately leave the station and evacuate. That's a very bad idea, because even young people with strong health would faint in tens of seconds after breathing in the toxic smoke. And in smoke, you just can't see where are you going. So it's literally really hard to escape. Some of you might say, well, even if I stopped, I would realize in a few seconds how bad the situation was, and I would move the train out the station. And you would be right. In general, it would be better not to stop at all and pass through the station. So, what happens next at Jungangno station? Train 1080 stops, and passengers are seen all covered in smoke through windows on one side of a train and through windows on another side of a train. They're seeing bright orange colors slightly visible through smoke, which are flames of burning 1079. Everybody seems puzzled, but no one understands yet what's going on. The train operator Choi Sen, in panic, instinctively opens the doors, and thick clouds of toxic smoke begin pouring into the train, with hundreds of people. Some of passengers who were close to the doors are rushing out the train and trying to run and find the exit. But immediately, realizing his mistake, Choi Sen closes the doors. Just 5 seconds later, some passengers manage to get out the train trying to save their lives, while majority of people are left inside the train, which now has all carriages filled with smoke. The whole situation is turned into chaos. People start panicking, pushing each other, coughing. They're trying to open doors, break windows. Choi Sen finally regains composure. He tries to move the train away from the station, but train doesn't move. Weirdly designed station's fire suppression system automatically triggered and switched off power lines. Choi Sen is desperately trying to move the train away, but with no power, they are stuck. The station's lightning is likely has gone. That time Jungangno station didn't have any emergency lightning. Choi Sen then receives an order from subway dispatcher to escape the train. He pulls a lever in the cabin to open the doors and commands passengers to evacuate. Then he takes out the key from control panel of the cabin and abandons his train and tries to find the way out, following a wall, because he barely can see anything in front of him. What he doesn't currently know is that only doors of 2 carriages have opened, but people in other 4 carriages are still stuck inside. And as he took out the key, nobody now can open the doors. Meanwhile, train 1080 starts catching fire because again, it stands in parallel to burning 1079, less than 1 meter between them. More smoke goes into the train, people start to collapse, some already unconscious on the floor, and those who manage to get out the train trying in panic to find the way out in complete darkness. For 3 hours, firefighters were unable to enter Jungangno station due to the thick, suffocating smoke. You can now see pictures on your screen showing the massive plumes of smoke pouring from underground. After the firefighters finally managed to enter the station, by that time there was no one to save and nothing left. In this terrible disaster, 192 passengers died and more than 200 passengers were injured. And 70% of injured and dead were on the train number 1080, which could have passed through the station without stopping, which could have never entered the station at all. Operators of trains 1080 and 1079 were sentenced to 4 and 5 years in jail. And Kim, who was responsible for this terrible disaster, got life sentence and died after a couple years in prison.